So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to our YouTube channel. In today's video, we are going to explore the various driving license classes or driving license categories that exist here in Kenya. I know there are quite a number of people who did their driving school before 2019, before the new classes were introduced, and a lot of people find themselves confused with regard to where their driving license class is when it comes to what is operational today. One thing I can advise you to do is to log in into your eCitizen platform and try and see the classes of your driving license. That is the first straightforward way for you to identify the class in which your current driving license falls under. Secondly, you can download NTSA app, and from the application, you are going to approve two-step authentication. So they will send you a code to your number, and then you'll be able to log in into your NTSA account using your ID number. And from the NTSA app, you are going to see your driving license class. And why is the class of your driving license important? It is very, very important because apart from driving a private saloon vehicle or a small vehicle, if you want to drive any other vehicle apart for private use, apart from just carrying yourself and carrying your family members, if you need to do business with your vehicle, if you need to carry passengers, if you need to carry luggages, then it means you need to obtain the relevant driving license that is, that is prescribed for that type of operation. So in this whiteboard today, thank God we have upgraded our whiteboard. We have now a very big one, but unfortunately it looks a bit noisy. But don't worry, I will take you step by step. In this whiteboard, I have described all the driving license categories, all classes that exist in Kenya today, and the progressive way of thinking on how people are supposed to upgrade their current licenses. Because you don't just wake up today and say, I am tired of carrying my family, I'm tired of carrying myself, I want to start carrying passengers tomorrow using my vehicle or using a bigger vehicle like a minibus or a minivan. For you to be allowed to drive any other vehicle apart for private use, then you need to obtain a license for that. And then it doesn't just come like that. You need some years of experience, and then age also comes into play. And in a very, very short presentation, that is what I wanted us to discuss today. And we are going to start from class number 1, which is class A, and finish with class number G, so which is class number 7. So I will give less emphasis for the last 3 classes because a lot of people are less, people with special interest in huge machines. A lot of people will fall normally under the 4 classes that we are going to discuss. That is class A, class B, class C, and class D. And under each class, we have some sub-classes that we are also going to identify the specifications and the requirements. So come with me as we start. And please, if you have a question, I have a very good friend who works in a driving school who provided me with this information. And if you have questions, you put them in the description box or maybe the question box, and he will be able to read and reply to all the questions that you guys will have. Also, something else that is important for all of us is to know that anybody who wants to do business of taxi, this is of very, very great importance for you to follow from the beginning to the end so that you can know which class your license falls under, and if you want to upgrade, then what are the requirements. So let us start from the beginning. So sorry for that. So the first and the lowest class here is class A, and under class A we have class A1, A2, and A3. A1 is for bicycles, A2 is for motorcycles, so those are the bodas, but they can only carry luggage, but they cannot carry people, so they are not authorized to do public service transportation. And A3 is PSV. So it's a public service vehicle for tuk-tuk and for boda-boda. So A3, you can do boda-boda, you can do tuk-tuk, but again, the requirement is that you have 21 years of age. And you'll see that this is a constant figure that we are going to see for any public service vehicle. It seems that you must have 21 years old. And this is for the NTSA. I need to specify here that here we are talking about NTSA. We are not discussing about other industry requirements. You will find that every other company out there, in as much as you have the age to get maybe an A3, they will say that for you to drive theirs, you need to have 24 years or something. For Uber, they will give a different age here for you to be able to operate under Uber. But for NTSA, for them to give you an A3, then you just need to have 21 years old. Let us go now to B2, to B. So that is class number 2. So class number 2 is the class for light vehicles. And light vehicles, this used to be, if I remember very well, before the new classes were introduced, we used to have something called BCE. So everybody who had a BCE class will today have a class B, probably manual or an auto. You will have a B1 or a B2, and then you will be given a class C. So if it was broken down, you don't only have, your driving license could have several classes that you have achieved. So if you have a motorbike, you have studied a motorbike, you have done manual, you have done auto, then you have several classes inside your driving license. So if you are coming from the old schoolers who went to school before the 2019 around there, then automatically if you did a BCE, then inside your driving license today, you should find either a B1 or a B2, and then you should find a C. But let me not confuse you with all those, because I want to assume that we are all starting from zero here. So if you come to class B, we are talking about light vehicles. So light vehicles are normal saloon vehicles, 5-seaters or 6-seaters. If you went to driving school and specified that you are studying only automatic vehicles, then your class will be B1. If you did manual vehicles, you will have a B2. If you did both, you will have B1 and B2. And then if you want to use your saloon vehicle, that is a 5-seater vehicle for public service transport, and that would be probably Uber or Bolt, then you need to be 21 years old so that you can be given a B3. You get my point? And then I forgot to put something here about experience, is that for you to get your B3 license, you need to have 2 years experience with B2 or B1. So it doesn't mean that you get your driving license yesterday. These are the normal driving license. So everybody in Kenya will start here for vehicles. If you get your driving license yesterday, you cannot start driving Uber tomorrow. You have to wait for 2 years experience operating at a B1 or B2 before you are given a B3, which is now the public service or the taxi class for saloon vehicles. So that is class number 2. We come to class number 3. So class number 3 is interesting because now you are getting into bigger vehicles, and here we are talking about trucks. So when it comes to trucks, we have the class C. So we have C1, you have C, you have CE, and you have CD. So for the C1, these are light trucks, and I will comment something after I finish with the whole of this class. So just take it the way I just presented, but I'll come back with a summary and exactly what you need to know about this class, because it is very, very critical, as well as the next class, which is class D. So you have class C1, which is light trucks. You need to have 22 years old, and then you have to have 2 years experience with B. So you cannot just today go into a driving school and say you want to study how to drive trucks. You get my point? You need to have 2 years experience here with a private vehicle, for you to be able to go and now do what we call the endorsement, so that you can be given your C1. So you need 2 years experience with B. When it comes to medium truck size, you need to be 24 years of age and 2 years with C1. You get my point? So at every level you progress, you need to go back to school. You need to go back to school for what is called endorsement. And I can give you more further explanation about what is endorsement, but it simply means you going back to school, undergoing the theory lessons again, and you sit for a practical exam, just like first timers, the way it is done. But in this case, they put more emphasis on the theory. So reminding you about the traffic rules, about the road signs, those kind of things. And then plus the 2 years of experience, you are given the top class. So again, here we are talking about the third category under C is the CE, which is heavy trucks with a trailer. So heavy truck with a trailer, you need to be 28 years old, and then you have to have 4 years experience with CE. So cumulatively, we are talking about 8 years. For you to be able to drive a heavy trailer, you need to have 8 years of driving experience, because you are coming from 2 here, 2 here, and 4 here. Okay? Then you have the class CD, which is heavy goods and hazardous materials. So these people who drive maybe oil tankers, hizi magari za mafuta, hizi kubwa kubwa, you need to be 30 years old, and you need to have 2 years experience with class CE. So you have to have experience with heavy trailers. You get my point? So cumulatively here, you need to be on the road for you need to have been a driver for at least 12 years. And then every number of years, depending on the experience given, you need to go back to school, and you are reminded about the theoretical stuff of road driving and road rules and regulations. So why I told you that I will mention something at the end of this, when I put here a light truck, a medium truck, heavy trailer, and heavy goods with hazardous material, there are very, very clear specifications with regard to the weight of those type of vehicles, the size, the number of wheels that those vehicles have. So depending on the type of vehicle you want to drive, the type of vehicle you have in mind, you need to go and consult a professional. Go and speak to a person in a driving school and tell them that my uncle is inviting me to drive his truck. This is the picture of the truck. This is how it looks like. Please advise me which among these does that truck fall under, because I don't want to tell you that a heavy trailer looks like this. Of course, there are those descriptions, but they have some very, very technical information that can differentiate two main vehicles, which in your eyes you believe they fall under light truck, but now when you look at the NTSA description, then they could fall under medium truck or maybe heavy goods. So it is very, very critical that you pursue with a professional whatever type of vehicle you have in mind, so that they can tell you exactly under which class your vehicle falls under, so that you can pursue that driving license without taking a guess. So class number 4, it's called class B, and this is for mostly for public service transport. We are talking about matatus, 14 seaters and above, and every type of public service transport apart from the small vehicles, the 5 seaters, will fall under this. So if you have driven Uber and you are tired of driving Uber, you can come and get your D1 license and start driving matatu. If you have a D1, then you can drive a 14-seater van. So those are the minivans, the matatu. Then if you get a D2, you can drive a minibus. So I think those should be 32-seater matatus. And then you have a D3, you can drive the buses. So the large bus with a capacity of maybe 50 seats and above. Again, like we have seen under the class C, there is age limits here, age specification, as well as years of experience. So when it comes to the years of experience, before you can drive a matatu, you need to have 2 years experience with a B3, with either a B3 or a B2 or a B1. So as long as you are coming from here, you need to have driven, you need to have owned your license for 2 years. So after finishing school, you need to have owned your license for 2 years. If you want to go and drive a 32 bus matatu or a 32 bus minibus, you need to have 25 years of age plus 3 years experience with a matatu. And then the same way, if you want to drive a 50 seat capacity bus, then you need to be 30 years old with 3 years experience with a minibus. So collectively, for you to be able to drive a 50-seater matatu or a 50-seater bus, then you need to have 3 years here and 2 years here and 2 years here. So you should be on the road probably for 3 plus 2, that is 5 plus 2 again. You need to be on the road for at least 9 years from what I'm doing a quick math here. So the whole purpose of this reasoning from NTSA was that from time to time, I think there were so many accidents. You remember the Meshuki interventions back in the 2000, but over time, accidents did not go down, but they came to realize it is not that drivers do not have the technical skills of driving a vehicle. A lot of people today actually are very good drivers in terms of, taking corner, reversing and parking, but the theory sometimes gets ignored, and the soft skills of driving, something like patience, something like just observing, something like communication, something like just understanding road science, some of those things at some point were concluded to be big contributors of road accidents, and that's why all this reasoning was brought back, so that before you advance into a higher driving class with more responsibilities, then you need to go back to school and you need to take an exam, and at least you get reminded at least of things that you don't do on day-to-day basis. Nobody will remind you on how to steer your wheel or how to brake and accelerate. Those things you know them quite well, but some things, as I have mentioned, you need a constant reminder. So the last 3 classes, the class E, I actually did not understand it quite well, but it looked like a very special class whereby you can operate like a specialized driver, probably defensive driving or something like that. But you can read for yourself and tell me what you understand. What is class E? But class F is for people with a disability. So if you know you want a car that is super modified so that it can fit your requirement as a person with disability. Probably you don't have one leg, you don't have one hand, you want all the consoles placed on one side so that you are able to use the indicators, the wipers, everything. Or probably for people who don't have both legs, so how can they drive with all the functions placed on both sides of their hands, given that now they cannot accelerate and brake with their legs now that they don't have them. So those kind of things. And then the last class is class G, which is industrial, construction and agricultural equipment. So under these ones, there will be so many classes that are highly specialized, and also the description of those machines is quite complex. So depending on the equipment that you intend to drive, then also you can consult your driving school trainer so that he can tell you exactly under which class you are, your license falls under, or which license you need for the exact equipment that you need to drive. So guys, that is it. That is all that I needed to discuss with you today. I hope you have learned something, and we look forward to the next video.